The Wests Tigers podcast is brought to you by the Wests Tigers Podcast Forum. Join the conversation today at weststigerspodcast.com.au.
West Tigers podcast, episode 467. Nick here hosting this evening because we're kind of short of a few troops. I believe Joel's away on a midweek rendezvous. Not sure where he's gone. I believe we're missing Declan. He's just busy with life, which is a bit of a shame because I do like hearing Declan's opinions and takes on all things West Tigers. Josh, I believe, is playing indoor cricket this evening, and I guess anything indoor in Sydney at the moment is probably a very smart idea. Which leaves us with myself and Jordan. Jordan, how are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad. It's good to have you on. I did miss you on the last pod on Sunday that we covered off with Joel and Josh, but nice to have you on.
Well, we look like the Tigers team of the last few weeks, mate. Not a lot of troops. We start getting players back, but we got no one on the pod. Well,
it's pretty normal, isn't it, when your team starts not just losing, but comprehensively losing, and you obviously lose troops like you just alluded to. Sometimes it's difficult to get the motivation up to come on and talk all things West Tigers, but we have to do it for our dedicated listeners. So we're back. Jordan and I will try and carry the torch this evening for the Yep. And obviously we're going to cover off the Dogs game shortly. But Jordan, as mentioned, we did have a pod on Sunday night with Joel and Josh, and we covered off a few things, but you weren't on, so I just wanted to get your thoughts on a few things. So we started with the Vegas discussion. Now, a little birdie told me that you are going to Vegas. Do you want to just fill us in on your travels?
Yeah, no, the family and I were going to go do Disney World and all that next year, and my loving wife came up with the idea once she heard that we were a chance that we might tee it all up. So, yeah, we're going to go over in February, do a couple of weeks over there, and at the back end of the trip, duck over to Vegas, watch the game, and then come home.
I think your wife and my wife are very different because there's no way my wife would approve a Vegas trip for a start.
She wouldn't approve a Vegas trip if she wasn't coming. But, it'll be myself and my wife and the 3 kids, so we'll all be over there and, go make a shake of it and enjoy the footy and see the spectacle they put on and, have a good time and hopefully break Melbourne's round 1 hoodoo. I was really hoping it was either Parramatta or the Titans we were playing, but Melbourne. At least it's not Melbourne in Melbourne,
which is very true. And as they say, all good things must come to an end. So perhaps 2027 is the year that Melbourne don't win in round 1. So it'd be nice to break that hoodoo. Sadly, I won't be going to Vegas. I think I've mentioned it before, but we do have a family holiday booked to Japan in January. So we're spending the kids' life savings to go and have some cultural experiences over there, which will be pretty cool on its own. But I'll be back watching the Vegas game, probably on the lounge at home. So anyway, looking forward to that. But just a couple other things that I wanted to get your opinion on too that we did talk about on Sunday night. And one of them was on the Connor Watson news. Now, I haven't checked the news too closely the last day or two, so I'm not sure if there's been any updates, but I haven't heard anything. So if he's still available, would you take him even for a minimum for next season?
Yeah, definitely. Even if it was for that 1 year sort of kind of stopgap, if he was going to go to PNG, the reports that have come out saying we are looking at him long term for that utility hooker, that Mr. Fix-It kind of role. I think it's actually not a bad idea. It's probably the 3rd time we've tried to sign Connor Watson. I know when I was on the member committee back in the Pascoe era quite a few years ago before he signed with Newcastle, we were actually really, really close to getting him then, but he decided to go to the Knights. So, I think he adds value. I didn't realise he was nearly 30 years old, but, he definitely does add value, and it sort of kind of gives us a bit more depth that we are lacking and has shown we are lacking in the last few weeks with all the injuries.
I think he's got great utility value, and obviously I'm not the only one because he's played utility for New South Wales 5 times as well, which is pretty impressive. But I read an article a couple of days ago that he was looking at signing a new contract with the idea of playing at 13. Now, I'm not sure how accurate that was.
Mm.
Now, if it was a stopgap year, so let's say he was looking for either Dragons or Tigers or whoever for 12 months before he goes to the Chiefs, and this is all speculative, of course, from what we've heard in the press, but do you think he'd be best suited to a bench role, or could you see him possibly playing in 13 jersey, which would mean you'd have to shuffle out 12?
In today's game, he would make a decent 13 just for that speed. Defensively, I'm not convinced, but definitely in today's game with the speed and the pace it's being played at, he adds that value. But no, my purpose, if I was to sign him, would to be that 14. It would be for him to be that Mr. Fix-It on the bench, cover any injuries in the outside backs, or in the second row or at hooker if need be.
And what would that mean for Latu?
That is a good question. I genuinely feel that it is probably going to end up being Latu in the 7 next year. If they continue with the development that I think they're going to continue with, what that does with, or even if it ends up in, if he holds out for another 12 months with obviously Luai still being there. Yeah, that's a tough one.
Another 12 months, I'm pretty sure, puts Latu into his 4th year of his West Tigers contract.
Yeah, well, if everything's to be believed, we're already negotiating with both Samuela and Latu. The other interesting part will be, I don't know if anyone saw the other day, the podcast with Mario Taratek talking about Manasi Fainu.
Yes, I did.
And him mentioning about the fact that it's their dream for him to obviously play with his brothers and to play the NRL again. And obviously he's been out for a while, and he'll be 28 years old by the time he gets to play again. And he's been out of the game for 5 years next season, I think it is. So yeah, there's probably a little bit to play out. I was surprised to hear the Connor Watson interest, but if Benji sees a value and has a place for him, who are we to question it?
Yeah, exactly right. It'd be interesting to see what happens. And I did mention this the other night too, over the next few days, because you'd think this sort of news would move fairly quickly, and we'll find out one way or the other with Connor Watson. But I'd take him, but it does worry me a little bit with Latu, because I mentioned the other night he's kind of been shuffled around a bit between sort of 13, bench role, filling in a bit of 6, 7.
But even he has said publicly he will play wherever he needs to play. For the time being, I genuinely feel it's probably just more of a giving him experience over the next 18 months. And then come 2028, he has the opportunity to take on that lead role in the halves. It's just whether or not he's going to be that patient. But I think with his brothers being at the club and his love for Benji and whatnot, I have a feeling he will.
Yeah, let's hope so, because obviously the Fainu brothers, I think, as a whole, are a very important part of our club, especially Sam Weller. I obviously have been a big Sam Weller fan for a couple of years since he came to the club. We're severely missing what he adds to our left side on the field at the moment. He's going to be out for an extended period, which is a big shame. Very hard to replace a player like Big Sam, but we'll talk a little bit more about Latu shortly when we talk about the Dogs game. But just before we get into the Dogs preview, and it will be a fairly short pod today, just for everyone who is listening, because obviously we covered quite a bit on Sunday night and we don't have a game to review, but there is an Origin game tomorrow, as we briefly mentioned. But 8:05, Jordan, you're going out.
Yeah. No, my work, we all go out every year, go have a feed and go enjoy. So, and thankfully we do have tickets undercover. So
that was going to be my next question. You're taking a poncho?
Yeah, we will be, because I generally park a bit of a distance away and act as, because I'm the designated driver, I act as a bit of a taxi service and get a few of the boys home and around and whatnot. So, yeah, we'll be taking definitely wet weather gear, but thankfully I was responsible for purchasing the tickets this year, and I had the hindsight of at least buying them a little bit further away up the back, so we are undercover.
That's probably a very smart move, because for our Sydney listeners and non-New South Wales listeners, the weather's been pretty putrid for a little while now, and it's very, very damp outside. So,
Yeah, and the next 24 hours is only meant to get worse.
yes, actually, tomorrow morning doesn't look too bad because I have had a look at the forecast for my e-bike commute into the city. But the afternoon looks a bit dodgy and potentially getting worse as the evening goes on.
Yeah.
So it could be
Right
quite
around
sloppy.
7:30.
Yeah,
Right
right.
around that kickoff.
Just
That
around kickoff
preview.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is going to be horrible. So I hope they do get a decent crowd out there, but I wouldn't begrudge anyone that decided to stay at home in the comfort of their lounge room tomorrow. But I'm very proud of you, Jordan. I'm glad you're going out there, and I assume you're going to be wearing something blue. You're going to be flying the Blues flag tomorrow.
Mate, you won't find anything maroon on this skin ever.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear. I'm not sure if there's, or on our friend Zach, I think, is probably a Queensland supporter. I have to check on that actually.
I'd take that friend part out of that comment if he's a Queensland supporter.
Big shout out to Zach. Hope you're well, mate. It's going to be an interesting game, and obviously, I don't want to get too deep into Origin because we're here to talk about West Tigers. But obviously, Mitchell Moses was ruled out. Was that officially ruled out today?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, Ethan Strange to start. For me personally, that's a big plus for New South Wales. I don't understand why he was picked to begin with.
Okay, well, that's good.
I really don't. I've never backed him as a pressure player, especially on the big stage like Origin. So Strange coming in, that'll be an interesting one. Matt Burton's been brought onto the bench. So, yeah, I'm actually keen. I don't mind Ethan Strange. I like him as a player. I like the way he plays and his attitude towards the game. So I'll be keen to see how he goes on a stage like Origin. But for me, I'm not excited by New South Wales bench, and I think Queensland has a lot of strike power. That's really going to being wet will maybe contain that a little bit.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm not looking positive towards tomorrow's result.
Yeah, there's a few interesting decisions too. It's nice to see a former old Tiger, James Tedesco, back in the number one jersey. I'm not sure how many more cracks he'll get it in the Blues side. I think last year he was pretty resigned to the fact that he probably played his last Origin, but he gets another go. In the wet conditions, I'm not too sure how that's going to impact what he can bring, but a good player with a lot of experience, so it'll be interesting to see how he leads the team from the back. Yeah, Jordan.
No, I was just going to say, with Tedesco's form this year, don't blame them for picking him at all.
Yeah.
Feel hard, sorry for Dylan Edwards.
Yep.
I just don't understand why Daniel Saifidi or Victor Radley are there.
Yep.
Like, that's just nostalgia at its finest from Laurie Daly picking them. Like, there are about 4 or 5 forwards in front of Daniel Saifidi, including our very own Terrell May. But if the rumours are true that Laurie Daly's already made his decision that this will be his last year, thank you, Lord. Because I've never rated him as a New South Wales coach and his selection over the years. I know there's a selection panel, but his influence on the team, I never enjoyed it, never liked it, and I can't wait for someone else, if it's Cleary or anyone else, to come in and coach New South Wales.
I think it probably is time for a change, and I think you're probably right. The favouritism is leading fairly heavily in Queensland's favour. So I guess if we do get touched up at home tomorrow, it's definitely going to make that. It's the second game up in Queensland. We're not going to Melbourne, are we, this year?
No, I think one of them is in Melbourne.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's the second game or the last game, but definitely, there's definitely one game, I think, in Melbourne.
Okay, I haven't looked that far ahead, and I don't do my homework very well. I never have. So I'm sure there'll be people out there shaking their heads and saying, why is this guy even hosting? He doesn't know what he's talking about. But anyway, we'll wait and see what happens. I mean, there's a couple of players that are in decent form. One's Ola Kawadu, who carved us up a week or so ago in that Tigers Manly clash. So I'm interested to see if he can continue his form, albeit it's a very much different opposition and different conditions. But yeah, a couple of Bulldogs in the team too. So Stephen Crichton, named in the centres. He's kind of copped a bit for his form this season, but be interested to see how he goes.
I'm surprised they picked him considering he's been out. Apparently he only trained yesterday. So he's not trained fully. I was interested to see that he was named on the extended bench for the Bulldogs.
Yep.
But yeah, apparently he's still not 100%. So that was a very interesting choice. Cole is a good choice, I think, for speed and that explosive ability. Defensively, not too sure, but he does add a lot of, especially in a game like Origin, a fast-paced game. If he gets a sniff, he'll cause them some problems. But yeah, with hopefully it works in our favour with Crichton playing and Burton playing, and then having to back up on Saturday.
Yep.
Could work in our favour.
I'd actually love to see Stephen Crichton have a blinder tomorrow and single-handedly win the game for New South Wales, but then be so spent that there's no choice but to rest him on Saturday evening against the West Tigers, because there's no need, for Cam Cirello to let him back up and put himself into any further danger. I'd also like to see Matt Burton get some game time and maybe do his ACL in the 79th minute. I think he's probably a really nice guy, but look, obviously don't wish anything bad upon him. But I do worry as we start to lean towards talking about the Tigers-Bulldogs game about the type of pressure in wet conditions that Matt Burton might be able to do to our back line under that high ball.
Yeah. The problem is, like, I know Tavana copped a bit, especially in that Sharks game. I'm going to erase that game from my memory for him, only because the entire team was on the back foot. Hines and Trindle were very smart in their game plan. The possession numbers, everything in that game showed one of the most one-sided halves of football I've ever seen in my life. And that just adds pressure, and it adds a lot of pressure. And then you've got scoreboard pressure, and then you've got field position pressure, and then you start to get the wobbles. And as soon as you drop one, then you drop 20. So I'll give him benefit of the doubt that was just a bad day at the office. Yep. He is an aerial threat. He is normally quite good under the high ball. The thing that we've got to do most is play like we did in the first 6 weeks of the season and keep Bulldogs to their half. Yep. Their attack hasn't been great. They did play well last week. But again, I don't think they've found their form just yet. I think we still beat them in the forwards with the teams named. So if we can keep them in our half, we can kind of nullify that threat. Like, yes, he does kick long, but hopefully now that we've got Buller back as well, that'll give us a bit more confidence at the back, because if we didn't have Buller and we had someone like Heath Mason, I'd be rocking back and forth in the corner.
Yeah, so would I. I've got a lot of confidence with some of the players that have been named back in our team, and there's a little bit of reshuffling, which we'll get into in a second, but you were just talking about the form guide too. It's funny when you look at the form guide, from the last 5 matches, both sides have only won 1. Of course, we've lost 3 straight. The Dogs, of course, beat the Storm last week, but before that, they lost 4 straight. So it's not great form from either club, really. I guess if you're looking at momentum, the Dogs were up against a weakened Storm outfit last week without Harry Grant. And Cam Munster was out too. So that was an interesting game. And I mentioned it on Sunday night. I did watch the large majority of that game, and the first half was sort of up in the air, but the Dogs kind of rolled over the top of the Storm in the second half, but I think a lot went their way, which happens in the modern game with all the 6 agains, and a bit of momentum can certainly change the way a game shifts pretty quickly. So it's going to be a very interesting game, which we'll get into in a second. But just looking at the stats too, I was looking at NRL.com this afternoon. They're pretty ugly. Some of them that have been mentioned. West Tigers obviously have conceded 142 points in our last 3 games. So we'd really like to wipe that from our recent memory on Saturday night and turn that around, because we need to start again right now. Bulldogs have won 3 of their last 4 games against the Tigers, which is a fairly common theme against West Tigers for any club, really. We don't have a great record against most clubs. Sadly, Luke Lowlee, who isn't probably Joel's favourite, but I think he's been going pretty decent this season, has scored 4 tries in his last 4 games, so he won't be there. So we're missing an in-form winger at the moment and try scorer. Bulldogs, interestingly, have won only 1 of their last 7 games at CommBank. So if they don't like running out in that stadium for any particular reason, maybe they'll have that in the back of their head again on Saturday. I'm not too sure.
Well, we all remember the game in the wet last year. where we came out and we played really, really strong against them at Combank.
Yep.
I actually think our back line looks the healthiest it has in the last 4 weeks. It's a shame that Taylor's not there.
Yep.
But even without him, it's the healthiest it has looked. I think putting Taruva back into the centres is a good idea, just defensively. Skelton back, he'll help start our sets. Tavana's an aerial threat. Buller's back, which gives us more attacking prowess out the back.
Yep.
So I'm actually quite happy to see that. I would really like to start seeing Jock and Jerome start forming a bit of a combination, especially since we're probably a month away before we get Dewey back. I would actually really like Jerome to put his dancing shoes away and start playing a bit more direct.
Yep.
Like the Dogs, even with their game last week, they still gave a double-figure lead. Like Melbourne were all over them for that first 30 minutes. And then, experience and missing key players, and as you said, with the certain calls in the game and just the roll-on with 6 agains and a couple of decisions that went against them, the Dogs started to get some ascendancy, which is one thing we need to curb, because they only need a 15-minute period and they can cause some damage.
Yep.
But I think the team that we've named, I'm really interested to know the reasoning behind why Murray has gotten a bench spot, like his first game of NRL of the year over Roberts. I thought Roberts was really strong against Manly. There's our bench. I think you mentioned earlier today, our bench is confusing. For me, that's probably the ultimate word. It is confusing. Like, I understand why Stafford's there as a outside back cover. Like, he won't get used unless we get an injury. But our bench is not as punchy as it has looked before. Like, you've got Royce Hunt on there, you've got Alex Seafarth there. Without that Royce Hunt, Sione, Fainu kind of combo we have, it doesn't have that same kind of impact at that 25, 30-minute mark.
Yeah, I agree. And I wonder if Benji's angling at a slightly different game plan here. But, some of the combinations are going to be quite different. And I wonder how much Jerome's going to be helped, obviously, with the inclusion of Uppy back into the 9, into the hooking role, because that's obviously a huge in for us. I mentioned the other night too that I feel like when Uppy's on the field, we sort of get another 20 to 30 metres just about per set. It feels like we get that much more momentum when he's playing out a dummy half.
100%.
And running from the ruck, because he gets everyone on the front foot. So what you were saying a second ago with Romy and he's dancing around, maybe we will see a bit less of that if Appy can get everyone, front pedaling a bit more.
Appy makes a huge difference, not just with the ball, but with defence. His line speed, he gets those A and B defenders on either side of him up with him, which creates what's called an umbrella in terms of defence. You get them up, you sort of kind of make the attacking team make a decision based on your defensive movements. Yep. And the problem that we've had in the last few weeks is that we've had A and B go up, but then the outside defenders don't. Yep. So they make those decisions and then gaps form where Appy gets both sides of his defence up. And now with Twal back as well, our middle's probably going to be a lot tighter. I think if the Dogs are going to try and do anything to score points, they're going to have to go around us. They're not going to be able to go through us. Satili Tupanua starting, I actually prefer that. I prefer him starting because he can be quite a lazy player towards the back end of games. But when he comes off the bench, when teams are tired, he is an absolute handful. Yep. So I'm glad he's starting. Them losing Jacob Preston's is a massive loss for them. Like, they're listing him and now Kickow. That's a lot of their sort of kind of edge attack where they play short. Well, Galvin especially likes to play that fake pass, short to the second rower. So, it's Appy's going to make a huge difference defensively for us. He'll get the line speed up, but with the ball, he gets forwards onto the ball. Hope has really been a thorn in my side the last few weeks because he's too slow. Yep. He is too slow. His service, he's always and people go, it's only an extra second. That's all it takes. That one extra second he takes to make a decision and then finally pass the ball, the defence is already in your face.
Yep.
Where Appy at least generally sucks in a marker and then brings the forwards onto the ball. So that'll make a big, big difference. And hopefully that he's had 3 weeks rest. It's he's going to come out firing, trying to turn us around. So I'm very happy to see Appy back.
Yeah, big opportunity for Buller as well to reinstate himself at the back as well. He's a
First game after re-signing too, so I'm really keen to see how he responds.
Yeah, which is awesome. I mean, if it's overly wet, we might not get to see, quite expansive play, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what it's like on the evening, and I will be out there. Are you going out on Saturday evening, Jordan?
Yeah, I'll be out
Yep.
there. Yeah, we'll all be out there. So we've got our memberships. So yeah, we'll be in the seats, ready to rock.
Yeah, hopefully I'll be up nice and high as well, staying out of the rain if it is raining, which it probably will be. But no, looking forward to it. Also looking forward to seeing Big Hamasi back playing in the centres in number 4 jersey this week. So obviously he's been out for a little bit now, and he didn't probably have the greatest start to the season that we all hoped that he would, off the back of a couple of good trial performances. But what's your thoughts on Mussy? I'm very happy to see a bit more size in the back line.
I think he's back out of necessity. Like
Yep.
I'm glad. I'm glad he's there over Stafford.
Yep.
That is 100%. I'm glad he's there over Stafford. I would have really liked to see him maybe get 1 or 2 New South Wales Cup games in before coming back to the NRL. But I think with the injuries to our back line, especially with Patrick Herbert suspended, Stafford's form, and then Taylor being injured, he's back out of necessity. But at the same time, hopefully being a young man, that 3-4 weeks that he has been off, he's a bit rejuvenated. The boys have gotten around him. Benji's got his confidence up, and he just tells him to go out there and do his job. That's all you got to tell a kid like that. Go out there, do your job, make your tackles, make your runs, and hopefully we see the best of him and he comes out firing.
100% agree. I'm looking forward to watching him play. I'm actually looking forward to watching the whole team play, which is quite rare because I did enjoy the bye weekend. I don't know about you, Jordan, but when we don't play,
I hate when we don't play.
You hate it?
I hate it.
You don't feel relaxed?
No, I feel worse because I look at the calendar going, when are we playing? I haven't been to a game in a month, which is actually really, really strange for me. But I don't go to Shark Park because it's a nightmare, especially after they've done all that redevelopment. And then we had Magic Round in Melbourne and then the bye. So I've got itchy feet.
Yeah, I can understand. Look, I obviously love putting on the Tigers colours, and I love nothing more than wearing the colours when we lose, when we win. Sorry, but when we lose, like the last few weeks, and when it's ugly, it gets very, very difficult. And my hair goes greyer by the minute, as does my anxiety levels go through the roof. But I have to say, there's something nice about sitting back on a Friday night, knowing your team's not going to lose for a week and a half, and just watching a couple of NRL games, having a nice glass of red, just chilling out in front of the TV. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I can understand that sentiment. You get the 2 points, you walk away with it. It's just amazing that we've had 2 buys and there are still some teams, 12 rounds in that haven't had a single buy, which is funny because I think 3 of the top 4 have had 1 or less.
It's a little bit imbalanced, correct?
Yeah. So, and that's what concerns me about our last 6 weeks, because I think we've got 1 home game in the last 6 weeks of the season.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's not very, we've got 4 home games in a row now.
Yep.
But yeah, it's very, very imbalanced, our draw to that degree, but we'll have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, we will. I mentioned on Sunday night, I'm very worried about this Saturday's game, to be honest, because obviously off the back of 3 losses in a row and then the bye, we're coming back refreshed. We got the Dogs, who are probably a bit underdone, not playing as good as we know that they can play, and as good as what they think they should be going as well. Next week's going to be very difficult. Penrith Panthers out at CommBank again, followed by the Titans at Leichhardt, which I can't wait to get back out to the old goal and watch the Tigers run around at Leichhardt. Which I think
last one before she's knocked down.
Yeah, correct. Which is going to be massive. So I can't wait to get out for that one. But I did say the other night, if we don't win I'm worried if we don't win 2 of the next 3, we're going to start slipping away from the 8.
Yeah.
Which then puts a lot of pressure on the club and the boys to, come from a 12th or 13th position to charge up into finals contention.
I agree. I believe we have no excuse this Saturday. We've got 4 players. The only people that are on the injury list now are Taylor, Dewey, and Samuela. We can't use that injury excuse anymore. We've got Appy back. We've got Buller. Manasi's back. We need to start making moves on how we were playing that opening 6 weeks.
Yep.
There is no excuse this week. The Dogs, as you said, are underdone. Burton and Crichton are going to have to back up. We need to make a statement in this game. We can't be another, the Dogs have found their form. Well, no, this is the game where we find ours. So there is no excuses this week. It has to be a win because, as you said, we've got Penrith the following week. Then we've got the Titans, and then I think...
Then we have the Dolphins.
The Dolphins at Campbelltown, yeah. And then I think we've got St George at Cogra. So
Newcastle
first. The Newcastle, yep. Okay. So there's still some tough games in there. Dolphins are playing well. Knights are playing well. For all we know, St George will start finding form when we get ready to play them. But, yeah, there's no excuse this week. We have to win.
Yeah, we have to win. Before we wrap up, a couple of interesting ones. Jock Madden named. I honestly thought he was going to be out for a bit after he tweaked his hammy in the last game.
Yeah, apparently. Well, from all reports, he was training today. And he was running with the firsts, and he seemed okay. So hopefully, it was just a minor strain, which can be that 1 to 2 week mark. So hopefully, that's the case. But I would assume if he does get ruled out for whatever reason, Latu would come in and then someone else will come in, maybe like Heath Mason or something will come onto the bench. But, yeah, we need Jerome to pull his head in and start doing what we like, especially what we saw in the Cowboys game.
Yep.
We need to start seeing that influence he has. He's been too sideways, and I guess that doesn't help when you're not winning the forward battle. But this week we have no reason why we can't win the forward battle. We have even with the weird bench we have a better bench than the Dogs, and our forward pack is currently better than what the Dogs have named. So we need to win that forward battle, and then let the backs decide by how much.
Exactly. You got a score prediction?
I'm going to hope that we find our form. Appy, the saviour, comes in and does what he does best. I'm going to go 28-16 to the Tigers.
Okay, I'm going to go lower scoring. I'm going to go 16-14. I think we might grind it out. I hope we will grind it out.
Oh, I don't think my stress could handle. I hate close games. I hate them.
Yeah, who likes a close game? I'd much rather go home after a 20 or 30 point win, but I'll take 2 points. Jordan,
I'll take 2 points no matter what, but as long as it's not golden point.
Yeah, correct. Yes, 2 points is imperative, especially this week. Panthers next week's going to be very difficult. And then Titans, I would want to think that we will win, especially our last Leichhardt game of the season before.
Will Penrith lose players for the second origin in that game, or is that the week after?
It may be the week after. I've got to check my dates. And again, someone's probably listening to this and knows a lot more than we do. But good on you, Jordan. One other thing before we leave is the news on Taylor May rehabbing or training with the rehab guys today and potentially only being out for 4 weeks. Was an interesting story I read.
Second dislocation from someone who's had a shoulder reconstruction personally.
Yeah, I'm worried.
I'm worried too. The fact that it's reoccurred, and then there was a game a couple of weeks prior to that. He looked a bit ginger after a tackle as well. After a second reoccurrence in the 1 year, your percentages of doing it again are in the 60 to 70% mark.
Yep.
So I just don't know whether you cut your losses now and go do the surgery. That way he's ready for preseason and he hits 2027 ground running, because I think Buller's going to be in the same situation. Buller hasn't had surgery, but I guarantee he's probably going to need surgery at the end of the year too. So, I was very, very surprised because especially the way he dislocated it. Like, there was no impact. He literally fended.
No, it was minor, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very minor. So I would be, personally, I would be surprised if we actually saw Taylor again this year.
You know what it tells me, though? If Benji's seriously considering of limping him through the rest of the season before surgery, which potentially will shorten his off-season, pre-season next year, it tells me that Benji's putting everything into making the top 8 this year.
Oh, definitely. And you look, you can't also discount Taylor's attitude too. He might be going, no, I can do this let's rehab it. Let's get it stronger. He's going to be doing 4 weeks minimum of, weights and physio and strengthening, and he's going to be strapped to the nines whenever he plays.
Yep.
But yeah, that does show, even from a player's point of view, that they want to do everything they can to, make the 8 this year, which is a good thing.
Which is very true. And maybe the sort of insignificance of what it looked like when it popped out in that Manly game, maybe the damage isn't as bad as what we all thought. Because it obviously wasn't a low shoulder that was hanging down where the elbow would usually sit. It's not as bad as some that I've seen. He did look uncomfortable, but he didn't look overly distressed. I know you've said he's done it a couple of times recently, which can only say that there's a bit of instability in that joint, but maybe it's not quite as bad as what was initially thought.
If there's no tears at the moment, like especially in the rotator cuff, or if he's got nothing that is structurally, like in a muscle sense, maybe that's why. Maybe scans, you're right. Maybe scans will come back and go, well, look, it's not as bad, but it would suggest that he's still going to need surgery at the end of the year for it.
There might be a few of our boys lining up for a hospital bed towards the end of the season, getting fit and ready for 2027, which will
Tiger Ward at Concord Hospital.
Yeah, correct. Black, white, and orange streamers everywhere and balloons. But that might do us, Jordan. I might see you out there on Saturday, mate, 5:30 at Combank. I'm looking forward to sitting down and hopefully staying dry and watching the West Tigers victory over the Dogs.
100%, mate. Looking forward to it.
Would love nothing more than seeing Lockie Galvin walk off that field distraught and back into the dog sheds, wishing that he never left the place in the first place.
I think he's already had some of those thoughts, but it's all right. The door's closed. We don't want him back anyway.
No returns. Thank you very much, Mr. Gould. He's all yours. Good on you, Jordan. Good to talk to you, mate.
No worries, Nick. Thanks for having me.
No worries. See you, mate. Bye.
Bye.